up in the Chesapeake Bay?
Well, I'm from the Chesapeake. I grew up, most of my life I've been around the bay, sailed on the bay. At the end of the Second World War, we moved to the South County, Anne Arundel. And then in 1950, we moved down to the water and shady side, which is on the West River. And there I used to row my boat to school. And sometimes I'd forget it and go off with my friends to the Ball Diamond, and then a couple of days later I said, "Whoops, where's my boat?" And the crabbing was great in those days. Of course, my knees were shorter to the ground, but you could see up waist deep, very clear. And I crabbed the whole West Shady Side shoreline, and I was sort of very interested in having crabs. So when I step on a hard crab and he bite me, I get my net down and then pick him up. So, and I had a live box and I had a trot line, and then in those days there were a lot of eel on the bay, and so I had salted eel to do that. But you asked me about my trip. I worked in Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard in 1960 when I graduated from college. I'm a naval architect, and sailed out there, and then the tropics caught me, and so I wanted to go to the high islands to the south, to Tahiti. And so we set sail in February the 3rd, 1965, and ended up at Taiohae in the Marquesas on March the 3rd. So my longest trip was 28 days at sea, and that was that first one. And so there were a lot of adventures there.
Ken,
yeah, go ahead.
so you've been on the bay since the 60s?
Yeah, I've been on the bay since I first went sailing at the Naval Academy at 1943.
So what type of changes have you seen since you've seen them in the bay, and it's going through a change now, and what type of changes have you seen since 43?
Okay, well, and when I was 10 years old, which would have been 48, we went across to Kent Island. Of course, there were porpoises there, and I've seen porpoise up in the West River, and so that's one change. When I came back from sea in 1968, already the water was brown. It was silted up. You could only see crabs up water clear up to your ankles, and so that was a major change. And crabbing, I guess chicken necking, we caught almost the same, but there was no crabbing walking along the shoreline anymore. What other changes I've seen? Essentially, well, it's not a change, but Hurricane Agnes, when I sailed, I kept my boat, and when I sailed across to Kent Island, it shows that the water flows up the eastern side of the bay, because it was brown water and lots of flotsam, and then over next to Kent Island there was clear water. And so those, you got any other questions?
Do you feel like we'll ever get the bay back to where it was when you were a child?
I'm hoping. And I can tell you one other different story about a mast I've done some work for Chesapeake Bay Foundation as a naval architect. And we were based in Eastport, Kaufman Design, the three of us naval architects. And they wanted to select a mast for the skipjack. And